Kairos. Wicked witches. Trusting the unknown. Welcome to the Nonsense in the Chaos. I'm your host, Jolie Rose. I have been back at home in Sark for 2 weeks tomorrow, and yeah, I'm feeling pretty disorientated still. The Mercury Retrograde has begun, and my technology malfunctioning has been off the charts. So while I was away, my Facebook blocked me out of it. I can still post through Instagram, so I've still got access to Instagram, and so that's still instantly posting to Facebook, but I'm not able to respond to any of the comments being written on Facebook, and just don't have access. I do have an old Facebook account, but it's really old, and I stopped using it because it's all the photos of me in my 20s getting completely off my head, and I just don't want people to find it or know about it. I only have like 100 people on it, so I can get on and see my Facebook account to see that there are people commenting, but I can't respond. And if I respond with my old account, then everyone's going to start trying to join that account, and I don't want them to. So hopefully I'm going to be able to get access to that Facebook account soon again, but as it stands I don't have access to it. And then my phone somehow, I guess probably from just being in the damp and going from hot to cold, stopped charging. So the charging port said it had moisture in it, but kept saying it, and sometimes it does it and sometimes it doesn't. And so since being back, I've had to get a new phone, which is a bunch of money that I don't have being added to my bills each month. Plus the bills here on Sark have just gone up so much. Nearly everything's gone up by a tenner. The electricity, the bins, and I'm just like getting a bit scared about everything. I haven't received the oil yet. It's all a bit scary. So everything's going up, and my wages haven't gone up, and I was already on a very tight living anyway. There has been other things that have been good news. So we've had some other positive things happening. Like it looks like we're going to be able to build a house next year, which is really exciting, and was the kind of main crux of what I was talking about with my fellow pilgrims when I was walking, is how and what to do about building a house, and people that I met along the way who are friends who are into that kind of thing, because I'm going to be building an underground hobbit house, and people are excited about coming and helping and being part of that journey, which is really exciting. And I know lots of people who are, for example, Dill, who was one of the pilgrims who was walking with us, is an experienced ecology farmer, I guess is that the right term? She studied farming ecology. I don't know if it was at university. She studied it anyway, and then spent her whole life doing that. So she did that, I think it was college actually. I think when she's talking about it, she refers to college. So she studied that at college, and then has been sort of a sustainability farmer her whole life, and she's so knowledgeable about things. Like you could just talk to her all day long. Well, I did. I literally did talk to her all day long for 8 weeks about the way the land that we were walking through was being managed, and about how to manage land myself when we get hold of it. So we're talking about coppicing and how to make sure we've always got enough firewood, but also to create special gardens and exciting spaces to live in, and then also having a workshop and how to treat and create wood to work with and to make things with. She just knew so much. I mean, you can just talk to her forever about things because she does know so much. I will interview her because she's fascinating. She's such an interesting lady, and love walking with her. It was the 4th time I've done a long walk with her, and I've never got bored of talking to her. So It was a real joy to spend that time with Dill. But yeah, coming back here, like, so Dill doesn't have a mobile phone. She doesn't have a smartphone, and we get really frustrated with her. But she, I mean, you know what, this pilgrimage, we actually got frustrated with her less than any other. I think it was only about 2 or 3 times where we didn't know how to get a hold of her. And she just has this amazing sixth sense of how to, like, there was one time, so when we were along the canals, I want to say Devon, Somerset way, we'd arranged to meet at a campsite that when we got there, it turned out it didn't exist. It was somewhere that was sometimes open in the summer, and it was a pop-up caravan site, but not a campsite. And the name of it was the name of a pub that was no longer an open pub. So there was a closed pub that someone was living in. Now, it was only because this person had like a kind of spooky statue in the window. I mean, I guess it was getting a bit close to Halloween, but I think it was still September. Yeah, it would have been September still when we were doing this walk. So for some reason, they had a sort of weird dummy thing in the window that looked a bit like a guy. And I think we saw that the lights had come on. The lights were on. So we knocked on the door to see if they knew anything about where we could possibly camp, or if there was any way of accessing the field that was there, because there was just a big empty field there, whether they owned it or it was something to do with them. And we knocked on the door, and this guy answered, this old man, and he was like, yeah, no, that campsite's not open, and no, yeah, sorry, unfortunately it's nothing to do with me, but don't say anything, but the neighbour's letting someone camp in her garden. And we were like, oh, that's probably Dill. So we went and knocked on the neighbour's door, and she was like, oh, thank God you found us, thank God you did this, because I didn't know if you were going to find us, as in her and Dill. And she was a lady, an older lady, and she had just let Dill camp in her garden. I think Dill had gone and knocked on her door to ask about the campsite, and she just said, oh, you can stay in my garden. So we all then camped in her garden, which was so nice of her. So we all got to camp there for free, and we found Dill. It was just mad because, yeah, she'd been ill, so she'd gone ahead for a day. And it just does figure out, like, somehow, even if we don't have mobile phones, it just figures out. And that is one of the things that you learn from doing pilgrimage and being in what we call Kairos time, which I've probably mentioned at some point on the podcast. I'm so lost now as to what's going on with what's been said on this, what's been said elsewhere. There was a lot of talking involved in the last 8 weeks. But we talk about how Kairos time is perfect timing and Chronos time is chronological timing. So Kairos means perfect timing. Chronos is the god Chronos, who's the god of time, which is chronological, your diary, your agenda for the day, all that kind of thing. And when you really get lost in Kairos time, which happened probably about week 3 or 4 for us, you are like, we no longer knew what day of the week it was. We no longer knew even really where we were geographically. It was like, I think especially once we got past, it really became very much so once we got past Avebury, because I think from Cornwall to Avebury, like, first of all, Cornwall and Devon, well, Cornwall went on forever. So Cornwall felt like it was 90% of the pilgrimage, and it went on forever. So there was an element of time getting lost there. And then we were into Devon, but I think Devon and Somerset we know quite well, in that we know Glastonbury, we know Avebury, and then we knew we were getting to Dragon Hill. So there was a sort of element of a series of events that we were expecting and we knew were going to happen. But then from Dragon Hill onwards, it was very unknown terrain. And I mean, I knew it, but also you're up on the Ridgeway, and for many days the Ridgeway is just the same. It's this, you're in the same landscape day after day, and you don't know what towns or villages you're walking past below you, and you just get lost. And it was very misty, and it's wonderful. You're just lost in this soup of time, and it's so magical and it's so peaceful. The podcast that I recorded and the moon ceremony that I held up on this monument on the Ridgeway for one of the dark moons, and I had 2 hours to wait before the ceremony was going to start, and everyone else had gone to bed, and I was just sat there on this monument for 2 hours, literally just sat there. I didn't have enough battery on my phone because I needed for it to last so that I could do the moon ceremony, so I couldn't listen to anything, I couldn't scroll. I literally just sat there, and it's really unusual to do that. And again, that's a very real Kairos time thing, to be forced to sit in the dark and just sit there for 2 hours, quite a long time. And I was just overcome by how peaceful everything is in the world. Peace is everywhere. It's just not anywhere near us. Like, we're not peaceful, but everywhere else is peaceful. And so that was interesting to be like on a pilgrimage for peace, and peace to be so available and so abundant. But all we have to do is just get away from each other and ourselves, I guess, and our distractions. So yeah, that's something that I once heard recently about. Our attention is the main commodity. So, scrolling, social media, all these things, they want your attention. And the more they have your attention, like TV, all of the stuff wants your attention. And the longer they've got it, the more they've got it, the more they can mine you for information that's useful to them, and the more they can advertise at you. So yeah, your attention's actually really valuable. And so to spend 2 hours giving nothing attention other than just the darkness and the silence and the peace that is there was an amazing gift, and really hard to do, and not something that would sort of happen easily. It was sort of forced upon me, and I just sat with it, and I was like, well, I'm just going to sit here and this is what I'm going to do. And it was a really powerful experience of peace on a pilgrimage for peace. And then, yeah, I've come back and my technology is all completely broken down, and I've been in a mix of wanting to rest, but then I was really ill. I got really ill when I got back, and integrating what's happening, but also wanting to see everyone and having to catch up on stuff. There's lots of pressing things that I need to do. Like I need to do an evaluation for Boomtown, which was meant to have been in while I was away. But I love Boomtown, but the admin for Boomtown just doesn't stop. The only window of time that Boomtown isn't asking me for anything is, so it was still asking me for stuff in September while I was away. So it's October, November, December. It starts again in January. So you get 3 months off a year before the list of deadlines and stuff starts kicking in. It's quite crazy, considering Glastonbury, we normally don't know who's coming and what we're doing 3 weeks before the festival. I've turned up to the festival many times with no idea what I'm meant to be doing. And so I'm used to that. And then Boomtown's the absolute opposite. So I want to write an evaluation of how the festival went, because I want to support them and give them feedback and help them develop and, support that journey. And I want to also write an evaluation to the Arts Council for the work that we just did, because we didn't get that funding. I applied 4 times for the pilgrimage and we didn't get it. And it's insane we didn't get it. And we achieved so much. And one case study on its own was worth, we only asked in the end for I think it was $8,000. $8,000 is nothing to them. 30 grand is a normal bid. And we asked for $8,000, which was just for 4 people to cover their costs. And we didn't get it, which is heartbreaking. And the case study of something that, on its own, I'd say is worth $8,000 was while we were in Chagford, we performed in a school. So over 59 days, I think it was, we did 24 performances. And we stayed with 31 people. So that means we've directly connected with 31 communities where we stayed with them, and we're going to send them postcards and say thank you for letting us stay. But obviously we connected with more communities than that, because we also visited pubs and interacted with people in towns along the route, which also will have had a connection with that community. I also think there's the audience of people that you just randomly walk past or drive past you and see you and are just questioning what on earth was that all about. And then there's the other audience of people online who were following us from afar, and the inspiration and kind of hope that generated for people. But this one school we performed in Chagford, there was this lad there who had hearing difficulties, visual difficulties, quite severe SEND learning difficulties, and English wasn't his first language. And he for the first time ever, asked a comprehensible question, where he asked us what our names are. And it was off the back of him being really engaged in the play, thoroughly loving it, asking constantly what was happening and just, trying to follow what was going on, but he couldn't very easily see all of what was happening. So the teacher was explaining some of the things that were happening and what was going on, and he loved it so much that he said, "What are your names?" And the teacher came and saw us in the evening to tell us that had happened, and she was crying as she told us about it. And just for that, I think that alone is worth the Arts Council funding of getting some help for taking this blooming thing on the road. But yeah, that was wonderful, and we did achieve so many amazing things. And I'm simulating it at the moment, and I suppose I'm frustrated with myself in a way that I'm feeling a bit grumpy, but my period is due. My period is due in the next 3 or 4 days. So that's the main reason. My period's due, and I'm tired. I'm deeply tired. It's why I want the pilgrimages to always happen in the autumn. It's because I do need time to get over it and to mulch and to go in and to kind of hide in my cave. And I am in a sort of a bit of a quandary as to whether I should be doing a digital detox now, because that's what it seems like everything's indicating. I'm grumpy, I'm tired, my technology is all breaking down. In a way, I probably should stop now and not be putting myself out there into the world, and give myself that break until the new year. But normally I stop in January, February. So I feel like we're halfway through November now, and then it's Christmas. I think I probably can push on through till Christmas, and then I'll have that time off in January, February again, and the podcast will have a break, and then it will come back for season 3. Because I'll see how it goes. I might stop a bit earlier, but I feel like during Christmas and the run up to Christmas, there's a lot of buzz, there's a lot going on. And I've also got an amazing interview with Fiona Williams next week, although unfortunately we recorded it and it was sounding great to us. So our first attempt didn't work at all, and my microphone wouldn't work and it was echoing, and then I switched it off and I couldn't switch it back on again, so we had to cancel and reschedule. And then we rescheduled and everything was working and it sounded fine, but when I listened back to the recording and have been editing it, there's an echo still on my audio, which is so annoying. I feel like there's a lot of this is really annoying moments going on at the moment, and so I beg you to, because it's a really good interview and I don't want to have to try and do it again, because it will actually be the third time, because there was a glitch when we did it this second time. We lost a bit of it and then it had to start again. So it won't work trying to do it a third time. I think we'd have to have a big break and do it again. But then, it's relevant to the pilgrimage, so it feels like it needs to come out now. So please be patient with it next week, to the fact that there is a bit of an echo on it. I've tried to edit out as much as I can, but it's only a little bit now. But yeah, that was annoying. Why is there so many things that are annoying? So yeah, but it's been really lovely being back and seeing Dizzle. That's been incredible. And just so lucky to have a roof. I mean, that's one of the things that I feel so strongly is on the way back, I was going through London to get home and just seeing people's beds set up underneath the bridges. I just thought, God, I'm going home now and you guys are still out in this, and this is your reality, and it's savage. And I really, really want to get to Calais to go and help with the refugee camps there. I would like to go and do it the week between Christmas and New Year. Probably I'm not going to be able to, a bit of a pie in the sky thought, but it's something that I want to do as quickly as possible, is go over and just give my time and energy to giving stuff out, like blankets and tents and that kind of thing. It's something I would really like to do, but we'll have to see. And just being so aware of how hard it is to get dry when you're wet and get warm when you're freezing cold. But also I'm interested in how, when we walk the pilgrimages, the amount of generosity and kindness and absolute angels out of nowhere doing stuff for us blows us away. And I just wonder and hope that's still true even when you're homeless or vulnerable and in need in different ways. Bad things happen too, and you find yourself in horrible situations and people can be really horrible to you, and it can be quite scary, and that's also there. But more often people are amazing and do amazing things. And I just hope that that is still true when you're vulnerable and of a darker skin colour, or, you know, your life, I don't know, just your situation is that you're not choosing to do this. It's a place where you're more stuck, you know, being homeless or something. I think that probably they're still having incredible acts of kindness and generosity being shown to them, because it feels like it's an impulse that humans have for people who are vulnerable and in need and need help. But I also know that, you know, homeless people can become invisible, and refugees and people in need are being called immigrants and bungers and all that kind of thing. And so that's my hope, is that people are still kind. It feels very nice to be back home and in the arms of my beautiful man, who is just so loving and kind, and never ceases to blow me away with how brilliant he is. And to be in my lovely warm house and to have possessions again and clothes and a washing machine, and yeah, we're so lucky to live the lives that we live and to be in as much comfort as we have. And I know times are getting harder and I know things feel crazy, but I definitely am less scared about all that out there now. Like, I don't actually feel like World War III's already begun now. I did. I mean, things did change a lot while we were on the pilgrimage, and obviously it wasn't because of the pilgrimage, but it's interesting that you're out there doing something that at least feels like you're in action, and it happens that while you're out there doing that, things do really change and shift. It does feel like you're part of that energetic shift when that happens, and, you know, things have de-escalated a lot, and that feels good. Just from meeting and talking to so many amazing people and being met with so much kindness from strangers for so long, my faith in humanity is fully renewed. So that's wonderful. And my tiredness and grumpiness is just really my period, basically. And also integrating everything that happened, because it was hardcore. And I've done 5 pilgrimages now, and that was in the top 3 for in terms of how powerful it was and how hard it was. And there's a lot to unpack from this one. It was up there with the one I did on my own, where my ex-husband split up with me, which was hardcore, and the one that I did walking to COP26 with 30 people. This is up there with them. I wouldn't even be able to say in which order they go. It's just that they've been 3 big, powerful, hard-hitting ones, and the other 2 were much gentler and more of a kind of pleasant experience. I'm injured this time as well. I've got something wrong with my ankles. My ankles are pretty tight. They were the whole way through the pilgrimage, and they're continuing to be now. So as soon as I sit still for a bit and then get up and try and walk, my ankles are just completely tight. So if anyone knows anything about any physio stuff or any tips on it, then let me know, because they were very sore. I mean, I basically need to do yoga really and stretch them as much as possible, which I've been doing a bit. I needed to get the bedroom sorted because it smelled of mould, and it took me till yesterday to really unpack and get everything washed and get everything clean. But yeah, it's that time of year where everything's getting a bit mouldy and damp, and so I want to get back onto doing exercises and not lose the fitness that I've currently got, and I want to stretch everything out and do all the right things. But it's just, it takes a while. You know, you think, oh, maybe it'll take you a few days, but it always takes a few weeks, and then the next thing you know, it's Christmas, and then blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I'm going to be on it and see what I can do. But yeah, now I'm going to pull a rune and see what the universe wants me to talk about. If you enjoy this podcast, then please consider supporting me on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Jolie Rose. I am ticking along, working on a new book, which is going to be coming out as soon as possible, Walking with Autumn. And after I've got this one published, I've got the second one that I will be bringing out called Listening to the Land, which I'm going to be writing this winter. Very much looking forward to. And yes, that does mean that the creation hibernation season is upon us, which is when I go into the digital detox period. I will also be offering some spaces for us to meet up online to write. And what we did last time, and probably will do again this time, is alternate each week. 1 week we would just meet up and write online, just so that we made sure we sat and did writing at least once a week. And then every other week have some exercises and things to use to inspire us to do writing, and I find them really useful. I often get a lot of my text and interesting ideas from something like that. So I wrote my whole book Walking with Autumn just as a first person narrative, and then through a nature writing workshop gave voice to the spirits of the land and the energies and the earth energies and the hedgerows and the plants and things during this workshop, and then was like, I need that in the book. That should be in the book. And I fed it into the book. And yeah, it completely changed. Walking with Autumn is autobiographical, but it also has this big fictional element in it as well, where I'm giving voice to the plants and everything. And I love it. It's really magical. So these exercises, I think, add to whatever writing you're doing. So definitely be offering that again. That'll be opening up, and we'll be continuing the moon ceremonies online and the moon articles. The podcast will pause from whenever the digital detox starts until be the end of February, and then I will be advertising the in bulk immersion weekend, which I think we've already got 4 people signed up for, and there's only 7 spaces. So if you want to do that, you need to sign up for it ASAP, because it will be filling up this time. So that's all that's ahead of us, and much of that is free. So the immersion weekend you pay for, but otherwise everything else is a free offering that I just put out into the world. And so a way to say thank you and support me, if you're someone who has got the income to be able to do that, is to put some money towards my Patreon every month. And it's hugely appreciated, and it just means that I'm able to carry on doing this work and that I've got that money trickling in, and I really do appreciate it. So if you're able to help, it's amazing if you can, and it means that those who can't afford to still get the free offers, but someone who's got more money is paying for them, and it's a really lovely cycle of generosity and support, which is hugely appreciated. So if you can help, that'd be amazing. And otherwise, I just hope you enjoy what I'm putting out there, and huge love to all of you. And now on with the show. Okay, so let's see what the universe wants me to talk about. Ooh, necessity. Well, God. Well, I mean, interesting. Yeah, I was about to go off down my usual, very old. I mean, I haven't thought about these things for a while because I haven't been quite so connected to my runes, as I've just done 8 weeks of having as little things to carry as possible. So I even sent my travel runes home while I was away, and so I didn't have my runes with me. But necessity on my old neural pathways was always like sort of one of the most negative runes. I used to always draw a beggar with a begging bowl out, which a big part of me feels like that a lot. She's like, please, someone help me. And I do get annoyed with that. It's boring. It's a boring narrative and not totally true as well. For example, we aren't going to be in a position next year to be able to build a house. So obviously not quite as skint as not being able to do that. But that is because of my partner being able to do it, and we're married and we're going to be building it together, and his grandfather, because the family have been here for 500 years, is able to give us the land, which makes it a hell of a lot cheaper. And I know people who are really good at building things, and that's amazing. So together we'll be able to build something, hopefully for as cheap as possible, because obviously manpower is one of the most expensive parts. And I would love to build a hobbit house and for it to be as off grid as possible so that we don't have any bills. And then that changes everything, because then we won't have rent or water costs because we'll have a borehole. And if we put solar panels in, then we'll have electric. And then that means that our only costs are the tax, the island tax, and the bins, so the public works bill. And that means that whatever it is we're then doing work-wise is just money in our pockets. And that means that I can go to Calais and help out there with the refugees, and I can come to events and things in England more easily, and I can spend time writing and not have to worry about paying rent at the end of the month. Like, I can just lose myself in the process of writing, and all of that feels incredible. So the new meaning of this rune to me in recent years has been when you're tired and you're strung out, which is definitely where I'm at now, that you only do what's necessary. And so that is a bit like the universe saying you do need to do a digital detox and it is time to stop. I am listening to that. I do have next week's podcast already recorded, and then that would mean me doing one on my own again after that. And yeah, and if I guess there is someone who I would like to interview, this sort of there's a few people to do with the pilgrimage that I would like to interview before we wrap up for this year, and then when I come back in the new year, the pilgrimage will be sort of old news. So I guess, yeah, I would like to pursue doing the podcast for another few weeks. But in terms of, what's necessary, what do you need to be doing right now? And if you don't need to be doing it, don't do it. And that's what this rune means to me. And I think it's important for all of us, because from coming from Kairos time back into Chronos time, and I say this in the conversation that I'm having with Fiona, and I will probably say it a million times again, everything about this life feels wrong. I mean, I don't need to tell you that, dear listener. I am sure that you feel exactly the same. But when you're walking on a pilgrimage and you're walking side by side with people and you're foraging from the hedgerows and you walk till you're done and you stop and you rest and then you get up again and you move, and it's not like you're disconnected from the land, because you almost certainly in a hunter-gatherer reality would have walked back and forth along the same routes. When I walk the Michael and Mary lines now, or when I walk the Spine of Albion, the Ellen and Belenus lines, I know those lines. I know them as beings. And yes, it's the length of the UK. It's the length and width of the UK. But I still love it passionately and deeply. And I know the land and I know the landscapes. And I'm, the more I do them, the more I'm going to know specific trees that are abundant with berries, and I'm going to know places to get water, and I'm going to know beautiful trees that I'm in love with, and humans that I really enjoy meeting up with, and landscapes that are stunning. And that is already happening. There were places that I saw this year that I hadn't seen since 2020, and it was very emotional to be in them again and see them. And some of them, there was one landscape, Ickworth Park. I'd missed it out in my book. I hadn't captured it in my journal, and so I didn't have any photos of it, so I'd forgotten about it until we got there, and I suddenly saw this landscape. But what's mad is that I had been there again since that pilgrimage in 2020, which cannot have happened because I've been living in Sark and I come back to the UK like once, twice a year, normally going straight into Boomtown or straight into Glastonbury. So there's no way I've gone to this place again. And yet I have been there, and I took a different route to the one that we took, which actually I remember from the pilgrimage in 2020. I did the same route this time with the pilgrims, because that's the way you go, because that's the direction. So this route that I took, which was in a different direction, went a different way along a wall that I never got to see and I don't even think exists, because what I realised is I must have dreamt it. So I'd completely forgotten this landscape, and yet I returned there in my dream, and instead of going the route that I went last time and went again this time, I went right instead of going straight on, and walked for ages along this path, and it went along the side of a wall, and I'm pretty sure, although this might be my brain changing it now, what is it called? A crinkle crankle wall. Now, I think my memory is now misremembering the dream as having a crinkle crankle wall in it, because I wrote a poem for the pilgrimage that had the crinkle crankle wall in. So if you go to places with really old red brick Tudor buildings, sometimes the walls wave in and out, and it uses less bricks and it makes the walls stronger, and it's called a crinkle crankle wall. Dill told us that because Dill knows these things. But I wrote this poem. I did share this on one of my posts on social media. I don't think people realise that I wrote it, but I'm just going to read it out to you now, because this is the Pilgrimage for Peace poem that I wrote at the end of the pilgrimage. So it goes like this. Waves crash in violence through plummeting rain. Heather and gorse lie marbled, wind-cropped, contained. Slender paths slither where blackthorn squeaks. Sanctuary calls where the energy peaks. Through the darkness we travel, compelled and undone, drawn to the lines where the earth currents run. Hunky punks grin down from church columns amused. We walk on sore feet, hill bones calloused and bruised. Crinkle crankle brickwork ripples and flows. Vistas unfurl from our labours below. At the node points where earth's deep currents meet, our spirits are lifted, our pulse finds a beat. Ancestors slumber in roots as they hide, beachmaster crunching beneath every stride. Brisk winds shiver to a chirping of birds, a loveliness rising of tickly ladybirds. The world stretches softly, preparing to dream, held in the shimmer of autumn's gold gleam. By night we lie hidden where wild hedges grow. Owls call their mysteries through the misty blue sloes. Woken by deer through the shade by their bark, which sets heart rates pulsing alone in the dark. A hush held for pilgrims asleep in the night. Then the soul finds such beauty in morning's first light. As the veil grows thin, our ancestors draw near. Seagulls call out and the coastline grows clear. Trivavantes, Iceni, old tongues whisper and speak, through floodplains of jetties where old timbers creak. We weave through the valley Norfolk and Suffolk span, along the hemispheres of the brain, a sleeping giant landman. I was quite pleased with that. So that was a poem that I wrote for the pilgrimage, and the giant landman was Graham was talking about in the last podcast, where he saw Suffolk and Norfolk as being the brain of this giant sleeping landman. And the hunky punks are the stonework heads that you get that aren't gargoyles, but ones that look like normal people. They're normally parishioners who invested in and put lots of money towards the building repairs or make extensions and add new bits to the churches. If someone put a lot of money in, then their faces would be added to it, and they're called hunky punks, which is something I knew. I don't know how I knew that. I learned that many years ago. But yes, basically, necessity. got very distracted. But yeah, only do what's necessary. Only focus on what needs to be done. Allow yourself these flights of fancy and be in that space, because that is what I was saying, is that being in Kairos time for so long and then having to come back to this Chronos time where everything has to make sense and everything has to be in order and everything has to fit into a structure, and it's really hard to push yourself back into it. And it does feel like we're meant to be hunter-gatherers, and we're not meant to be sitting opposite each other across tables staring into each other's eyes. No wonder there's so much conflict. Like Pilgrimage for Peace, walk alongside each other. If people, it doesn't matter how you feel about someone, if you're walking, you walk things off. You might have an argument, but it was 3 days ago and in 30 miles away. You just walk things off. Things move. They move through you. You have moments of peace and beauty and love with whoever you're with, and it changes everything, and we would all be so much happier and the land would be happier and the world would be happier. And yes, we do enjoy our caves in winter and we want to go in, but then we would go in and we'd hibernate and we would have this time off, and we wouldn't be having to do anything. We wouldn't be farming. We would just be going in, and we would have whatever stores we've saved. And all right, that'd be scary. There's a lot about it that's got issues. I'm not going to just completely fantasize that the whole thing's great, but I like the idea of going in and being quiet in the winter and being somewhere warm and indoors in the winter, and then spring, summer, just being out there walking. And fuck this farming malarkey, like just hunt together. I'd much rather it personally, and that'd be what my time is spent doing. And then in the winter you go in and you create art in the caves and you paint the walls of the cave and you make music and you come up with plays, and I'm up for that. Anyone wants to join me? Be nice, wouldn't it? And so for a Chaos Crusade, I do feel like a lot of the Chaos Crusades are walking related, but I don't think that that's an accident. I think that the reason why people keep coming back to walking and walking outside is because it's so important for us to be in that space. I think rather than coming up with another walking thing, because that's always there for me and has been done a lot, I am going to suggest the exercise that I have planned for the dark moon, the forthcoming dark moon, which is a Scorpio dark moon, because I think a lot of what's coming up for me and is affecting me at the moment is also not necessarily because of, but happens to also be very relevant to it being a Scorpio dark moon. Scorpio is all about the real nitty gritty and the real truth and the shadow work and the dark recesses work of the psyche, so that you make room for transformation. And I think when I first started thinking about shadow work and talking about shadow work, it seemed like this, I don't know, like you're going to find out you're a serial killer, or like, you know, it feels like scary stuff. But when I sort of clicked that it's, you know, I've done that kind of stuff before. Like as a teenager, I took an awful lot of LSD, and I spent some of that time really going there with myself, challenging myself to be as dark as I could, and to just be like, go on then, be really dark. And then eventually going, do you know what, you're not very dark. It was actually quite nice. It was quite a good thing to do in a way, because I was like, you're not that bad. And then as I've got older, I have realised the things that are my darknesses, because I think when I was doing that as a teenager, I was imagining like serial killer levels of darkness and monstery kind of stuff. And actually it's subtler than that. Our inner work is much subtler than that. And there are things now that I do know, and what are my darknesses is being a bit narcissistic. And narcissism is something that comes up and I have been exploring in life in general. And I'm really comfortable now with where I am on the narcissist spectrum. I'm not anywhere near narcissist level. I am confident and I am self-expressed and I am self-obsessed, but I'm not a narcissist. And I know that 100%. And I'm comfortable with that. And if anyone else is like, well, I think you are, I'm like, well, that's up to you. But I'm comfortable in myself with where I'm at on that spectrum. But that's work that I've had to do, that I've had to explore. And I'm glad that I have, because it's not easy and not fun, because you look into it and you're like, how do you know? I do know now. And if you want to talk to me about it or unpack that with me, I would be very happy to do it in a ceremony or moon ceremony or something. But I'm not going to share that on just a random podcast at the moment. I might do in the future. But yeah, as it stands with where I'm at this current moment in time, it's been good to really get clear on that. I'm like, oh, okay, I can see where I am on the spectrum now. And that was even hard at the weekend, because actually when I was talking about this with my friends here in Sark, and I was like, do you know any narcissists? And they were like, well, the most narcissistic person I know is you. I was like, oh, great, thanks. But, you know, I know why they're saying that. It's because I'm the only person round here, especially in the Channel Islands, that does this kind of work where you're having to self-promote yourself. There are other people that do as well, who are artists that perform, but they're more in bands and things. But, you know, as an actual individual having to promote the work that I do, there aren't many people over here having to do that. So I get where that came from, but it was funny. But yeah, it's just things like that. It's like the other thing that I worry about in myself that's like shadow work is the not wanting to be stuck as not being able to develop, because I'm getting a bit older now. I'm 46, and actually, what is it? So it's 14, 28, 56. It is, it's 56. So in 10 years' time, that's your second big Saturn returns. So the first one is 28, 29, and that's you becoming an adult. That's becoming real in yourself, settling into yourself and becoming actual. And then 56 is you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And so that doesn't mean you're not going to learn anything, but you have to have been, up until the point of 56, someone who was open to developing and growing and will challenge themselves and will see where they need to challenge themselves. And one of the places where I can see I need to challenge myself, two big ones stand out for me. One is this fucking conversation about money. There's someone I really want to interview about money who I met on the pilgrimage, who I think is really interesting. So I'm going to see if I'm reaching out to him to see if I can speak to him. But I need to keep exploring this relationship I have to money. I feel like it's moved on a lot, and that's great, except and then things have moved because this house situation. So maybe it might just be that I need to drop the narrative, and that's interesting, and that's something that maybe I need to do. And then a stick I beat myself up with is that I'm not very good at anything. Like I do a lot of things, and I have definitely got some talents at things, but none of them do that well. None of them do well. I've written books, but I'm not a famous author. I've acted in things, and I'm not a famous actress, and I've not been in anything big. And I'm good at this sort of thing where I just improvise stuff, and I did Fooling and was pretty good at that, but not great. I wasn't one of the really good ones at it. Yeah, I'm like an all right artist. And I know that's subjective because someone else might be listening to that. And I know how frustrating it is listening to someone. It just depends. I appreciate people listening to whatever anyone is saying and being frustrated by it. Because when I listen to Madonna or Prince or someone like that, I remember us growing up that they would say things like, I just always knew I was going to be, big or famous or whatever. And I have always had that feeling. I always thought that I was going to do well. And then that sounds like the narcissist. That feels like a narcissistic thing. But then you look at people who have done it and have achieved these things, and are they all narcissists? And is it that they believed in it and they just happened to be the lucky ones where it happened? How many people are sitting at home listening to the radio like me that are going, well, I knew that too, and I believed that too, but it didn't happen for me? And how much of it is a lottery to do with where you're born and how much money your family have, and the lottery of circumstance. And I don't know the answers to any of those things. You just have to keep going. I've had to just keep going because I would die if I didn't. I can't fit into a office job situation, so I just have to carry on chugging away. And yeah, that goes through waves of being really hard. Sometimes I'm like, especially when you've got a thing to do, like going off and doing the pilgrimage, you've got a thing to chew on. But I do worry about like not getting better at things. Like I don't want to just be okay with being okay at things. I want to keep developing and learning and growing, getting better at stuff. But then there's always there's an interesting relationship between being the student and the teacher, because you can get stuck in always being the student. And there was a big step for me when I stopped being a student and started being a teacher. Took control of it and was like, okay, I am this now. I am a writer now. I am a fool. I am a performer. I am a journalist. I am these things, broadcaster, whatever it is. Like, I'm just going to do it, and I don't need to keep learning. But then I think any professional in any capacity should always keep training and developing whilst they're there. And yeah, I just don't want to. It's things like, I'm a performer, but I don't know that many things off by heart, although I do know the whole of Richard II off by heart, but I haven't polished up on that for a while. So some of it, it came back to me while I was on the pilgrimage, because it was like, that's how I fit. Like, it stirs that up in me while I'm walking. I suppose it's just letting them things bubble through, but at the same time, like, I want to have these practiced sonnets or bits of Shakespeare or poems that I know, so as a performer I can pull them out. And as a writer, I want to just keep getting better as a writer, and as a fool to not be scared to just get up and improvise. And yeah, it's to keep challenging myself. Like, I definitely need to go and do another Fooling workshop hit again soon, and I'd love to do some more writing training and all of these things. So yeah, it's to keep challenging oneself so that you don't get stuck. So that's the kind of shadow work. So it was a very long way of saying that my Chaos Crusade for you during this Scorpio sticky time, maybe you're feeling similar to me where things are coming up, is to really sit down and investigate them and write them down. So the questions I said are my worst attributes, my biggest regrets, my biggest mistakes, the places I feel stuck. And if you just sit and write them down, and then what I've said to do is, I'm cheating a little bit because this is what you would be doing on the moon ceremony. So if you're planning on coming to the moon ceremony, don't do this until you're working with me. But if you're not going to come to the moon ceremony, then this is something that you can be doing at home. And I'm saying this rather than doing a separate one because it's just so prevalent for me at the moment that this is how I feel, that I feel like this is what needs doing at this moment in time with this Scorpio energy. So what you then do is a thing called riffing, which is where you write channeling someone, and you can do it with anyone. You can do it with Frida Kahlo, you can do it with Eve, you could do it with God, you could do it with time, you can do it with anything, you could do it with peace. But what I would suggest at the moment, because the veil is thin with this Scorpio energy and it's coming up to the dark moon, is that if you do it with an ancestor, that's someone that you love, that is passed on, that you know has your back. And if you're lucky enough to not have had anyone you know or love pass on, then are there any people that you look up to, like Frida Kahlo or Einstein or your teacher or anyone that isn't necessarily a loved one but isn't here anymore, even if they're not necessarily dead? Like, I don't know if all my teachers are alive or not, but if there's someone that you just feel had your back and supported you on your journey, and channel them to respond to your list. And it could be an overall general response, or it could be them going through the list with you, and it could be more than one person. So it could be that certain people come through, and just to give yourself that feedback and support, because we are the froth at the moment, the living froth at the top of this infinite ocean of grief. And we are the culmination of all the hopes and fears of our ancestors. And they're so glad that we're here and we're alive. And they've so got our backs, and they're really supporting us. And they're just pushing us forward, going, go on, you can do it. You've got this. You've got this. So let them come through and let them help you, and let them go, Jesus, shut up about blah, 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 or stop worrying about this, or life's too short for blah, blah. Just let them speak, let them come through and give you the advice that you need with that list. And then what we're going to do in the ceremony is burn the list. We'll write down the advice and the support, and then we'll burn the list, burn it into a bowl of water, and then that ash will take out and pour to the roots of a beloved plant that's somewhere outside. And then it will decay and mulch into the earth over the winter, and then that plant will grow in the spring. And we keep the advice of the ancestors to hand, put it on our altar, or just put it somewhere where we'll look at it and remember it, so that we remember to support ourselves and give ourselves that love and support that our ancestors are giving us. So that's what we're going to be doing in the moon ceremony. I won't be using moon ceremony things every time for a Chaos Crusade, because I definitely feel like it's cheating. But it just feels like that's so relevant to me right now with where I'm feeling about things, that's what wants to be shared. But if you're coming to the moon ceremony, wait to do it with me then. That makes it easier, doesn't it? So I hope you are all well, and it'd be nice to hear from you. Like I say, I can't respond to you on Facebook, but I can respond to you on Instagram. And if you want to email me, you can email me as well, nonsenseinthechaos@gmail.com. And yeah, just be lovely to hear from you. So I hope you're all well. Take care, and I shall see thee anon.